Hey, this is Nick from Borsellino Carpentry. Today's video I'm going to be putting some baseboard trim in a bathroom. This is a segment from a larger video I did, a whole bathroom floor. So I had to put a new floor in, we had to pull the toilet out and pull all the old trim off and everything. So this is just the section of the trim of that job. This is in a mobile home, so it's pretty much the same thing in a normal house, but it's a little bit different here. If you'd like to see the rest of the job, I'll put a link in the description below. Now please excuse my sniffling and runny nose during this video. I didn't realize I was coming down with a cold at the time, and over the course of I did this video, it took me a few days just between the weather and everything, and it was funny, I got gradually sicker as it went on, and I didn't know I was sick until I started watching these over again, and then I was like, wow, I was really sick. So please excuse that. Other than that, here we go. All right, so because this is a mobile home, we've got these strips that cover the ends of the panels. We've got to cut these off. We've got a scrap piece of the baseboard. See, it's going to make that stand out. So we're just going to set the scrap piece on there, use a multi-tool, and cut around the room. Ba 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 ba. Alright, we'll get our nail puller and pull all the nails that are sticking out so that they're not in the way of the baseboard laying flat. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the piece of baseboard that goes against the tub. Mainly because there's nothing really, I don't really want to attach to this other than maybe some caulking. So if I put that one in first, my other two pieces on each side will hold it in place. I'll be able to nail in the bottom here, like I said, just caulking on the top, and it should stay. So you just measure, it's 54 inches. So we're just going to take a long piece. We have 8-foot pieces of this trim, and we're going to measure 54 inches, mark it, and give it a cut. Okay, so we're ready to cut. You always want to set up your chop saw, make sure that your bevel is on 0, your angle's on 0. I usually lock that down just to make sure it doesn't move. And then we're going to square off the end, measure 54, make a mark, and cut it. Now when I line this up, you want to, again, we want to cut that and leave that, so we want to make sure the blade is on the other side of the mark. So if you look at the blade, when you have the saw down, you can see right where it's going to be. There we go. All right, so that piece just went right in. Like I said, it just pressure fits right in there. So once we nail in the bottom, it should be good. Our trim's going to fit right in here. And so to get this number, if we take a straight edge, we set it on the corner, we measure out from the baseboard, looks like we got about 2 1/4. So I like to draw this out sometimes so I can see it. So the baseboard is going to look like this. And we're going to run this wall up to that one. Now if this was wood trim, or if this had some sort of a detail on it, we would actually miter this inside corner. But this is just square stock, and so you can just run it into the corner, run the next one into it, and paint it. Caulk it and paint it. So this is 2 1/4 from a square end to the inside of a 45. And do the same thing on the other side. So it's 5 15/16. So we've got the inside corner 2 1/4 and 5 5/16. Now for the wall behind the toilet, this one's pretty simple. It's just going to go from the cabinet to to the shower base. So that one is 26 13/16. Now, that's just going to be a square cut in here and a square cut up against that. Because we're going to have the trim die like that, and then we're going to have quarter round that matches the oak to go around the bottom of the cabinet. So it'll look just like that. So this piece of trim is going to be 8 7/8, a little light. So what I mean by a little light is it ended up being 8 7/8, and then it was just shy of the line. It was in between those two lines. So I'm just gonna like make it a little shorter than 8 7/8. And when I write that down, just so I remember when I go outside to make all these cuts, I just write 8 7/8 with a minus. Now if it was 8 7/8 heavy, I would put a plus sign. On the other side of the door, we just need a small piece of trim here. It's going to be 2 1/4. And then the piece along the long wall is going to hit between the two pieces of baseboard. So once we get those installed, we'll measure that last cut. All right, so I've got my list. I'm now ready to start cutting all the pieces. That inside corner, what we can do to make life a little simpler, anytime you're cutting a 45, you got to move your fence back out of the way or you cut that. So I set this out at the 45-degree angle, and we're going to cut the angle first. Right like that. And now we're going to flip it over, because if you remember, our number is actually on the inside of the wall. So how do I measure this is I hold the tape measure on here, and it was 2 1/4 inches for the first one. We're actually going to hold this on the 1, and we're going to add an inch. So instead of 2 1/4, it's going to be 3 1/4. And that's our square cut. Flip the saw back up. Now we're going to do the same thing for the other corner. And that one's 5 15/16. So we're going to do 6 15/16. Okay, and behind the toilet, we had 26 13/16. And that one was a square cut. We got a little scrap. Get our next board, square off the end. Eight 7/8 minus. So I'm going to mark 8 7/8, a little bit short. And our last piece is 2 1/4. Okay, let's go see if they all fit. All right, so all these pieces fit pretty good. That corner, this corner, behind the toilet, and right in front of the vanity. So now we just need this last piece here. 47 1/4. All right, here's our piece. Fit right in there. Okay, so we just want to make sure we got this tight against the wall when we measure this. Looks like 17 3/16 heavy. So again, I'll just draw this out. Same thing over here, hold it tight against the wall. 23 9/16. All right, so I got my pieces and we'll go cut those and be right back. Okay, so for the quarter round, square the end. And then I've got 17 3/16 heavy. So this one is going to sit on the wall like that. So this is the face you're actually going to see. So we're going to measure off 17 3/16 heavy. I'm going to mark that on the top. Now we want to cut this on a 45 like that. So off of that mark I made, I want to just make another little mark. You can see that. There's the mark that I made, and I'm going to make a little angle, and that's what we're going to cut it. So you set this to 45 degrees. For the other way, we need 23 9/16. So I'm just going to cut this to like 26 for now. Just a rough cut. The reason I did that is so that, because this has like that wood grain on it, well, when the angles come together, it'll be the same grain going through. Most people won't notice that, but it's something I like to do. 23 9/16. All right, now to see how it comes together. That looks perfect. All right, now we'll get the nail gun and we'll shoot it all in. So whenever you're nailing in trim, we want to nail into the studs wherever possible. Now, these strips should be right on the studs because they attach. You can actually see it right there. But on a normal house with drywall, you can use a stud finder. If you don't have a stud finder, if you come up higher than the bottom plate of the wall, which is 1.5 inches, so if you come up about 2 inches, as long as you're below the top of the baseboard, you can use a nail or a screw. You can hit a nail in there a bunch of times, go all the way down the wall until you find a stud. Sometimes you can bang and you can hear the difference when you get to a stud too. But in this case, we can see exactly where it is. So, put the baseboard back in, and we want to push down so it's tight to the floor. Nails, top and bottom. I'm using 2-inch finish nails in my gun. You can use hand nails if you don't have a gun. And we'll go right around the room. So for the corners, we want to line up the corners really good on the outside. This is PVC trim. If it was wood, I would glue it, but with PVC, I don't know if the glue would stick. So I'm just going to get the corners looking pretty good. On this wall, we can see the nails where they finished it. So I know the stud's right here. All right, so I've got all the trim installed. The next thing to do is to caulk it in. All right, so to fill the nails, I'm going to use crack shot. See if we can get it in here. Not really working, is it? High performance spackling paste. Any nail filler will work really for this. So I like to do it, I'm going to get a little bit on a putty knife, just to have some to work with, and then I'm going to take it off with my finger and put it into all the holes. Once I have it in the holes, I'm going to use a damp rag. I just took a rag and squeezed all the water out of it so it's not like I'm going to be messy, and just wipe off those holes with it very lightly. And go right down the whole bathroom. Okay, that's it. Let that dry and that can be painted. So for a little bit smoother finish, you can also use the putty knife to put the nail filler on. Leave it over a little bit. Sometimes you gotta do 2 coats, and then let it dry and then sand it, and you'll get a much smoother finish when you're done. But in this case, you know, we're in a mobile home, everything's just nailed on. The nail holes aren't even filled on anything else in here. So this is 2 steps up from what's here. So for the last piece, we just got to cut this threshold. We got a measurement of, it's a little over 28. So I'm going to cut it 28 so we're not fighting to get it in there. So we're just going to measure and make a mark. And I'll cut that with the hacksaw. Alright, so I got my mark here. I'm just going to cut this with a hacksaw. Try to keep it as straight as possible. Okay, there we go. So we got the threshold, and it fits in here good. We just want to make sure we're covering both floors a little bit. Kind of find the spot that works right. And then we're just going to use these little nails that came with the threshold. They're all down nice and tight. And we're good. I think that's it. Alright, so here's the finished floor. You get the threshold in. Got the vent. All the trim's done. Looks good. Just give everything a once over. Looking good. Ready for paint. Man, by the end of that video, I can tell I'm so sick. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. I'm sniffling and ugh, it's gross. But I'm feeling much better now. I think I recorded that video probably like a little over a week ago, so I'm better now. If you like what you saw, or if you didn't like what you saw, leave a comment below. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Start over. Baseboard and trim and blah, 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 blah. So give it a listen, watch, whatever. I'm gonna record this over. There's one more thing I'm forgetting.